Two-term Republican Congressman Anthony Gonzalez, he had 2 terms. He's not going to run for a 3rd term. He's announced that in an interview with the New York Times. Now, Anthony Gonzalez is previously known for being a standout receiver at Ohio State, and then after that, being a first-round draft pick in 2007 NFL draft. That's crazy, to the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I had him on my rotisserie.
Yeah, well, now he's on a different team, and he's no longer gonna be on that one, as you can see. So Donald Trump actually knows him as an enemy, because after the January 6th insurrection and the impeachment vote, Gonzalez was just one of the Republicans that voted in favor of the impeachment. So, of course, the turmoil had to happen from that, and potentially that's the reason that he's now bowing out and not looking for his 3rd term. So let's go straight to some of his reasons behind this. The congressman, who has 2 young children, emphasized that he was leaving in large part because of family considerations and the difficulties that come with living between 2 cities. Yeah, sure. But he made it clear that the strain had only grown worse since his impeachment vote, after which he was deluged with threats and feared for the safety of his wife and children. Now, he remembered this one time, he recounted an eye-opening moment, is what he called it, this year, when he and his family were greeted at the Cleveland airport by 2 uniformed police officers, which was part of an extra security precaution taken after the impeachment vote. He said, that's one of those moments where you say, is this really what I want for my family when they travel? To have my wife and kids escorted through the airport? Mr. Gonzalez was emphatic that the threats were not why he was leaving. The commute, he said, was more trying. But in a matter-of-fact fashion, he recounted people online saying things like, we're coming to your house. In accordance with the advice House officials gave to all members, Mr. Gonzalez had a security consultant walk through his home to ensure that it was well protected. So all these things fall out from the fact that he decided to go ahead and vote in favor of the impeachment after the January 6th insurrection. Now, by the way, also, Gonzalez was an ardent supporter of Donald Trump while he was in office. He voted with him all the time. He's a Republican, he's a new Republican congressman. Of course, he's gonna try and get in good with the party, especially with this president who had so much pull and reach with the party. So Trump also responded to the news today in the fashion that you just might expect. He did say, Rhino Congressman Anthony Gonzalez, who has poorly represented his district in the great state of Ohio, has decided to quit after enduring a tremendous loss of popularity, of which he had little, since his ill-informed and otherwise very stupid impeachment vote against the sitting president of the United States, me.
We knew it was you, Trump. You're such a dumbass.
One more part of his statement here before we open this up. This is no loss for Ohio or our country. And most importantly, we have a great candidate who was substantially leading Gonzalez in the polls, Max Miller, who I have given my complete and total endorsement, Trump said. Max is a tremendous person who will represent Ohio well. Now, for those who don't know, Max Miller was also an aide in Trump's White House in some form or fashion. Another yes man is basically what he was. But he's endorsed him to run up against Gonzalez, and Gonzalez said, I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Yeah, so there's apparently 3 issues in the Gonzalez retirement, and then let's go from least important to most important. Commute, whatever. Maybe it is a real thing in his life and he's really annoyed by it, and he used to be playing the NFL and he just doesn't want to be bothered, right? But that's, of course, not relevant to the rest of us. The second one is important, but that one is mixed, where, look, Trump targeted him because he voted for impeaching Trump. And I've told you this before, as a matter of politics, it is correct strategically. I wish Biden would target Democrats who are voting against him, but not based on ego, but based on policies that he wants to get passed. That is effective politics. Unfortunately, of course, the other side of it is that Trump is using it for his ego, and what he's doing is he's purging any dissent from the cult of Trump from the Republican Party, and that is very dangerous to the country. But the most dangerous of all is the third branch, where he had to have the security consultant check his house, his family escorted through airports. Guys, I tell you this about climate change all the time. It isn't coming, it's already here. So the extreme storms, the flooding, the droughts, the fires, they are much more severe. We're in the middle of climate change. By the way, I say it about another topic, post-slavery era. It's not in the past, we're still in the post-slavery era, and we're still dealing with the repercussions of that racism that continues to roll through this country, and unfortunately through big parts of our culture. Now I'm gonna tell you something scary. The brown shirts are already here. They're not something we're worried about in the future. We used to quote Sandra Day O'Connor during the Bush administration all the time. She was a conservative justice, but she began to worry that the right wing was coming after democracy. And she said she talked about fascism and said we should avoid those beginnings so we can avoid those ends. But we're no longer at the beginning. Now we're in the middle. Because when they threaten violence and they drive people out of politics because they're worried about the safety of their family, that's exactly what the brown shirts did in Germany. It was vigilante violence, both committed and threatened, that would intimidate people into silence. And that's what's happening with Anthony Gonzalez. And that is a very scary thought here in the United States of America. Jackson.
Yeah, first, it's always hilarious to think and remember that Donald Trump is in his 70s acting this way. But to really get to, just more important things, one of the bigger polls that came out this week that showed 59% of the Republican electorate thinks that believing Donald Trump won the 2020 election is an important part of what it means to them to be a Republican, which really points to the fact that the GOP base is completely out of control. And this is an issue that we're going to be dealing with for decades to come. And it may even be an issue that America always has to deal with in some form or fashion because of the echo chambers that people live in that are really forced upon them by the way that search engines function. Search engines feed us what we want to see, not necessarily exactly what we're looking for. And as that really expounds over to the fact that, the Republican Party, in my opinion, is kind of permanently stuck in limbo. I mean, the tens of millions of people who have these viewpoints are not just gonna change their minds. They're not just gonna flip a switch and then become rational all of a sudden. These people have children. These people's children are in school. We're still dealing with the COVID pandemic. We're going into fall and winter. Things are getting worse. People still aren't being vaccinated. So all these, hyper politicized topics are only gonna continue to grow. And so, as ridiculous as it may seem, as easy as it is to laugh at Donald Trump, as you pointed out, his base is a cult, and there's really an infection that's continuously rooting anything and anybody out that doesn't agree with their line of thinking. So,
well, I was thinking maybe Gonzalez here is potentially missing that point of how deeply rooted it is, because he said he's going to continue to fight, and whether we believe it or not, I'm trying to figure out exactly how. So you're gonna leave, which, okay, fine. By the way, there's no criticism for the guy who wants to do what he wants with his life. Like, it's not like you have to stay in Congress, especially since, honestly, he was supporting horrible policies, as we talked about. He was supportive of Donald Trump anyway. It's just now he made the one mistake of not giving 100% loyalty. He gave 99%, and that last 1% he didn't give, while Donald Trump gave him 0% loyalty. Let's keep it real. So he did say so he thought he could still beat Max Miller, because I'm not leaving because Max Miller is now endorsed by Donald Trump and they think he can beat me now. He went on to say, politically, the environment is just so toxic, especially in our own party right now. You can fight your butt off and win this thing, but are you really going to be happy? And the answer is probably not. Now, this is where he says he's going to continue to change things. I don't believe that he can ever be president again, of course, talking about Trump. Most of my political energy will be spent working on that exact goal. So, okay, say he goes through the process of making sure Donald Trump is never president again. There's plenty of people doing that. One of them is Donald Trump. So the part of this is now if you're gonna be the one who's gonna make sure that you put all your energy in making sure he's never president again, that's not the only problem with the Republican Party, bro. You've spawned a bunch of other Trumps and other folks that weren't Trumps, but then follow his lead anyway, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, who will take on the form of anybody that they suction their mouth to. It's just the way it's gonna be. What do we do to really rid that whole idea from the party in the first place?
All right, last couple of things here. Look, Gonzalez voted with Trump overwhelmingly. So it's not like he's a good guy. He voted for all those terrible, terrible policies. But I will give him credit for drawing the line on ending democracy. I mean, it is the lowest bar possible. But the overwhelming majority of the Republican politicians have not cleared that bar. They're okay with eviscerating what this country stands for. And Gonzalez said, look, I'm as conservative as it gets. And basically he loves Trump's policies. But he's like, but I kind of like democracy. I thought we all agreed to that, but we don't. And he's living in la la land. I mean, he says, I meet a lot of people on the base who don't necessarily want Trump. Really? Then why are you running away? Then if you're sure the base was with you, You stay around and easily beat Miller, right? You're either worried you're gonna lose to Miller, and or you're worried that they're gonna kill you. So it doesn't look like the base is on your side, and you know they're not. And certainly the Republican politicians aren't. And why are the Republican politicians not on the side of sanity and democracy? Because Trump ordered them not to be. Remember, even Lindsey Graham and Shara pointed out the day after the insurrection was like, oh, this is outrageous and Trump has gone too far. Now he's back to the suction business, right? So because they went to their voters and their voters said, we don't really care about democracy. We think it might be time for violence. We don't care. We just want our cult leader in charge. And I'm afraid that Jackson's right. And I hadn't thought of that at all. But he said for decades to come, we might be having to deal with this. And look, even after Trump passed away, he's in his 70s. We don't know when it's going to happen. Of course, it could be a long time from now. But even when he does, they're still going to be following the ghost of Trump. Like, oh, what would Trump have done?
They do it with Reagan.
Right, and they did it with Reagan for decades. They'll probably do it for another couple of decades with a lunatic known as Donald Trump. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.